So we put all that in place, presented it to the team, and it was launched. And it's worked ever since. I mean, it showed us what we knew, is that on Fridays for us and in consultancy after COVID, they were much quieter. People were pretending to be busy on Fridays and they weren't. So we're pretty much still around 30% more productive as a business on 4 days than we were on 5. And we saw a pretty mammoth, I think it was a 68% reduction in absenteeism through sick leave.
Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. I'm your host, Ned Wells, and I'm really pleased you're here. Welcome to the Impact Files podcast. And this week, Ali and I are joined by Jon Berry, Managing Director at Tyler Grange. Jon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to it.
Great to have you here.
Jon, let's start with a little introduction to yourself, to Tyler Grange and the work that you do.
Yeah, I'm Jon Berry. I'm Managing Director of Tyler Grange. And it's an environmental consultancy, started 15 years ago. And the focus of it is helping people through the planning system with ecology, arboriculture, landscape planning and green infrastructure. So 4 of us have managed to somehow turn that consultancy into a 130 strong business now across the UK. And it was very much founded on wanting to enjoy work again. Myself and the founders came out of a larger PLC business that had kind of lost its way. The recession had hit. Frankly, we weren't enjoying it. And we got together and said, you know what, shall we found a business that means we can fall back in love with work? And actually, can we be back central to the community around us, not just working in silos? Let's get back really at one with our clients, our collaborators, even our competitors, and give something back. So we, from day one of founding Tyler Grange, it was about we want to create something that feels a bit different to work in and to work for. And that's how the business was created.
How old is the business?
So we're 15 years old. We celebrated last year with a big party at the Botanical Gardens in Birmingham as a celebration of how far we'd come. Yeah, it feels like the blink of an eye, but we really have evolved in 15 years. That's the main thing of our story, really. It's very much about change and action. We found that's the way that you can really innovate as a business. As soon as you think the business is great and performing well, it's probably showing signs that you need to change something, from my experience.
So what sort of organizations do you work for? Who are your clients?
Yeah, it's really varied, actually, and it's changed as we've got bigger as a business, but it can be anybody that's seeking planning permission and change. So whether that's new housing, social housing, energy infrastructure, but then also things like the leisure sector now, growing demands, things like artificial surf reefs we've worked on in former industrial sites, right through rewilding and nature restoration projects where actually people are buying land for the sole purpose of wanting to improve it for nature and biodiversity. So our team will be able to give their expert advice in relation to whatever ultimate land use is required or wanted. And I think, the importance we've always put on it is that anybody can perhaps do surveys, but actually we want to add that experience of you want to build a rapport with your client, you want to give them the best advice, and work with consultees and local authorities in a really enjoyable way. And actually that can sometimes mean telling clients that they haven't got the right site or they haven't got the right proposal in mind.
I'm intrigued by that, Jon, because the things you're saying aren't unusual. They're kind of common sense. But you've grown in 15 years to 130 staff. That's amazing. And I'm wondering if you stand back and kind of reflect on, so how did that happen? I mean, there are lots of other business leaders who've been running lovely organizations for 15 years and try to do things the right way, but they haven't grown anything like that. And I'm wondering what's the secret sauce, John?
Yeah, I sometimes wake up asking the same question. How did we get to 130 people? We actually had our
Yeah.
team day. We had our quarterly team day in Birmingham yesterday, actually, and it's a great moment for me to always step back and think, "Wow, we've created a really great culture." In all honesty, that's what helped us
Right.
grow. We've always had quite a flat structure. For us, it was whoever's speaking in the room, whether they be a graduate or one of the founders, has probably got an important point to make. So listen to them. It's quite a lateral leadership. So you support and get influence from everybody around you. When we started it, I remember there's a great book actually called The Second Mountain by David Brooks. And there's a quote in that book, which is you never underestimate the power of the environment you work in to gradually transform who you are. And that really stuck with me when we created Tyler Grange. It was like, actually, we've got a real responsibility to create an environment where people can thrive. And so we created values. We created the ability to let people be their authentic self within the business and to trust them. And that meant that people started to join us, sometimes in regions where we hadn't got an office at the moment. And we were like, well, they're good. There's a really great character fit. Let's just give them an opportunity. And that freedom and trust really helped us grow and is still at the core of the business today. It's harder at times to manage as a bigger organization, but we've put some things in place that really help us to maintain that culture and maintain that as we grow.
How interesting. So I'd love to dig down a little bit more into your personal story. You mentioned that you were working for a larger PLC that had perhaps lost its kind of soul a bit, but rewind a bit further. How did you start? Let's go there. Did you do university? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky actually. I thoroughly enjoyed my time at school. Actually, my secondary school. I was born in the Midlands. I had an incredibly passionate and enthusiastic geography teacher, but then I also really enjoyed the creativity of our sort of art lessons. Putting those together, I went to school in the days where you went to see the careers officer. They got a book out. They kind of went along the top, up from the bottom, and it came up with two options. Do you want to be a landscape architect or do you want to be a veterinary surgeon?
Okay.
I was like, that's a great place to start. And I'd never heard of landscape architecture, but something about it when I started to look, this interaction between humans and the environment and how we've always had an interest in shaping that really captured me. And it was that passion from my geography teacher, really, who was the sort of teacher that got the whole class in the minibus to go and look at a geological feature in the countryside and then back to the class. Really evoked people's sort of interest in it. I mean, that took me to landscape architecture, and I ended up studying for 4 years in Cheltenham. And again, really lucky. That was the time where universities were so interactive. We had a studio space for the 4 full years of my degree and postgrad diploma, and it was all about interaction. It was all about learning. Lots of other disciplines came into our course. We had artists, we had performing, theatre experts, we had planners, we had arborists. It's like a really all-encompassing course, which then set me up really for a career in it. And so, yeah, like most people, I finished university in 1998 and started to look for a job. And I think that was the point for me where I suddenly also realized that you probably needed to stand out. I always knew I wasn't academically the sort of brightest, for what I put in effort and work ethic. I perhaps sometimes lacked in my sort of studious ability to just perform. I was one of my lecturers said, well, just sell that. It's like, sell your character, be the person that stands out. And I actually hand built a CV. I made a small model and I made 10 of them, and I drove around the UK in my Renault 5. I can still remember the thing just about staying to pieces. Yeah. And I drove to 10 practices that I knew I wanted to work at, and literally did a road trip and hand delivered my model CVs.
Cool.
And I got an offer. Well, actually, I didn't get an offer from all of them. I got 2 on the spot interviews. And I got offered roles in 6 of those practices. But actually, I got a letter back from all of them saying thanks for making the effort to, show up in a different way. And I think that, again, has stayed with me in life. It's like, yeah, you might not be the best at something, but if people remember you, or they can see the effort you've put in, that's probably going to get you somewhere. And that's where my career started, in a small rural agricultural practice in the Cotswolds.
How interesting.
Sounds like you could take your pick by the sound of it then if you had multiple offers. So why did you go for that one?
I think it's that I'm a great believer still in gut feeling, and a bit like how I selected Cheltenham as my university. It wasn't the course that got the best reviews, but I got a feeling when I went to the open day, and it was the same for that visit. There was something about the environment of the practice and how they made me feel from the moment I arrived that I thought this is right. And I think that intuition we sometimes belittle, but actually I think I say to the team, still use your technical ability, but also what's your gut feel instantly on this site or this project or this person that we're going to work with. Does it feel right? And yeah, that employer just felt right.
That's so interesting. And I think as we talk more, we'll hear more from you about the culture you've instilled at Tyler Grange and your various interconnected offshoot projects. But it sounds like, as you say, the principles and the criteria you used in those early stage decisions are the principles, and they've formed the basis of the values you carry through.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important. And it's not to say that employer then turned out to be the best, but actually, having a choice, having the luxury of a choice actually of where to work, just came from that pure effort of, I want to do this differently. This is me with all my flaws, but also this is my creativity. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. And that's what we look for today, actually. We recruit at Tyler Grange. My strapline is, ditch the CV, recruit a human. So 5 photos. We ask everybody to bring 5 photos into Tyler Grange and talk about their life. And absolutely, it is. For me, it's life-changing because you have the luxury of hearing somebody's story for an hour during every interview.
Yeah.
Love it.
And actually, what we're finding on this podcast is, by just taking a bit of time at the start to go, who are you? What's your thing? What's your story? Is a really interesting way of setting the context for, so you run a business as well, but how does your personality show up, and what are the things you care about, and how are you managing to sort of bring your own personal values into what you're doing in the commercial world?
Yeah, I really love to have that connection with people. So for me personally, I was born in 1975, 11 weeks prematurely, and given less than 20% chance of survival. So my mum had a prenatal condition called rhesus disease, where basically the baby's blood and the mother's blood interacts, and the immune system basically creates antibodies that attack the baby's blood red cells, and that was happening to me. I was born early, but I was I was saved through the skill and care of somebody that drove 6 hours across the UK to operate a new incubator. And I think that's always instilled in me this sense of like, actually, I'm lucky to be here. I've got to give something back.
Mm.
And that's just been instilled in me. And I think that start in life, and everybody's got a story like that, which somehow links to the way they live or how they choose to work. And sometimes you don't. I've only recently started to tell that story again myself because it didn't feel important. But actually, looking back now, I can see why I'm very much a people pleaser because I feel like I need to be.
What I thought when I saw your story, I guess on the Tyler Grange website, or you'd referenced it somewhere, and I thought that truly gives meaning to the perhaps overused phrase of origin story, because you're
Yeah.
on about saying absolutely moment of origin is continuing to, or you're taking something from that. You're saying, okay, those were my beginnings, and those are the people who helped my beginnings. How do I carry through from that point? I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's the beauty of the story, and we've now got a storyteller in residence in Tyler Grange. So Claire Murphy's a world-class storyteller by trade, and she's actually helping the founders and all of the team get better at telling their story, because she's like, actually, it's great for you to understand it. It's great for the people around you to understand it. It's also incredibly powerful in sales and business development. It's like, actually, if people remember you for your story, they're going to start trusting you more. They're going to want to work with you more. And it's also really important for people to be able to tell their history of Tyler Grange. So like, they may have joined it 5 years ago and see Tyler Grange in a different way linked to their life than I see it as a founder. And I think she's helping us document that at the moment, train us and facilitate for us to tell that story collectively, which I'm really excited about, actually.
So cool, Jon. And you mentioned that you're joining us from Cornwall.
Yeah.
And that's related to your, I think you called it your side project, the Kindness Forecast. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, the Kindness Forecast is actually, that came out of my recognition for my start in life. And actually, the beauty of us being a 4-day week business, which I can talk about later, is that Friday gave space for side projects, which we've always encouraged the team to do. It's great for the mind, it's great for well-being. And mine was to create a self-funded social experiment, and now soon to be foundation, called the Kindness Forecast. And it's all about playing with acts of kindness to people and planet. And I love it. It gives me space to experiment. I started the project with a really simple experiment where I funded a free cup of coffee somewhere in the UK every day for a year. And it was anonymous. They were selected at random by the people behind the counter, and they were given a little token, and they could choose to accept a free coffee in exchange for a short story or just a response to how it made them feel, or they could pass it on in the line, actually, and gift it on to the next person. And that first experiment it blew me away, because first of all, it was silence and I didn't hear anything for a few weeks. And I thought, this hasn't landed at all. But then these anonymous emails started to come through the system I created, of short stories of, that this changed my day, or nobody does this any longer. Or actually, other people had self-reflection that they've had good careers, but they never give back. And, one individual messaged me to say, yeah, it was a moment that's turned me into now volunteering and funding a local food bank after a 35-year career in the city. Is like, I've never given back. And like, for me, that's the perfect initiative to show that kindness creates these ripples. And I can also align it with my day job. So I'm now working with some big rewilding schemes in the UK. I'm supporting Tir Natur in Wales, a huge rewilding site, community funded. And then in Cornwall, where I was last night, it was the launch of an initiative by Carl Rollinson, who runs Plant One Cornwall. So I'm kindly sitting in his cabin on the edge of the estuary on the Helford River. So yeah, he plants trees for a living, and is really fascinated by creating woodland and restoring the habitats and landscape of Cornwall. And last night was the launch of a short film and a new campaign, which is called No Trees, No Seas, and it's that rediscovered inextricable link between woodland creation and water quality and fish stocks. So yeah, another excuse for me to get involved in something. I try and spend my life around other experts and other passionate people, because it just is motivating. And continuing that theme, they've probably got the intelligence to do it, whereas I've got the enthusiasm to support them.
But it sounds like you've organised a really nice life for yourself as well, and for the people that work for you.
Yeah, I mean that's the aim. I think I've experienced really poor management and leadership as well in my life. So I've had bosses that had a very different relationship with their workforce. So also seeing it done really badly and experiencing significant stress and burnout. I blacked out at work, and that was a moment for me when I'd moved locations in the UK. I'd been asked to start a new office in Manchester, which was a brilliant opportunity for me, but I underestimated the pressure of not being given that much support, suddenly changing my social network. I was isolated in a big city, and I put everything into work and threw exercise at it, because I thought my tiredness and fatigue was something that could be fixed with exercise, and it turned out that was the worst thing I could have done. And again, that moment of darkness and 6 months spent at home, not being able to work, was the ability for me to ask whether I was really happy and enjoying the career that I was so passionate about. And I'm pretty true to myself that I wasn't enjoying it. So I was like, if I'm not enjoying it, perhaps I can create the place where I could be me. And that's really how we started the business.
I think that's so interesting. And when you were describing earlier the fact that in group gatherings of whatever size, that whoever is speaking because they have something of value to say, for me that taps into the idea of psychological safety at work. And I was thinking about that as you were referencing the less positive leadership experiences you've had, or management experiences for yourself. I think psychological safety counts for so much, and also the idea of that storytelling within the organisation, that everyone's story is worth hearing. Because if people feel listened to, they feel valued, and people who feel valued give more back, and it's a virtuous circle, isn't it? And it's so again, building on the not always positive experiences, clearly you've got a really great model in place.
Yeah, and it's meant that we've put well-being right at the center of our organization, and people will say to me, yeah, that costs money, it's difficult, market's tough. And I was like, absence through sick leave costs the UK billions per annum. It's a figure that nobody ever considers. So some of my founders had also had health issues. So from day one, we started to put a structure in place of external support, a non-exec team, sometimes paid very little. We'd be like, can we just like bung you 500 quid a month to help us with this? And we got everyone from ex-England rugby coaches to clinical psychologists to mindfulness coaches that now work with and in the business to keep us healthy and happy. And you have to give people a range of ways to access that, because everybody wants it in a slightly different way as well. But for us, like, a resilient business is much more likely to be a healthier and profitable business. I think we've grown and turned a good profit over the last 15 years because people want to be there, and when they don't feel well enough to be there, they know that we'll support them to get back. And and it is hard work. Consultancy is really hard work. We never try and create this sort of panacea of it's all wonderful. Consultancy is deadline driven, demanding, challenging work, but we want people to feel like there's we basically say it's high demand, but it's high support at the same time. And I think that's the I guess kind of the sporting analogy, where somebody like Russell Earnshaw, Rusty, who comes from a rugby background and runs a brilliant organization called the Magic Academy. He gets people in re-enjoying sport. He's like, sport is about enjoyment fundamentally, not competition. But he came in and was like, let's look at your business from a collective. Like, how do you perform on the pitch? How do you have difficult conversations as you walk off the pitch to make you better the next time? It's been a great way of us realizing that you've got to work with the team in a different way to get that performance up. And it doesn't always work. Also, trialing things that don't work. We've tried things like with Rusty's encouragement to we live streamed our board meetings for a while to be ultra transparent and inclusive, but they were so boring that nobody got it in.
That's brilliant. Jon, we're going to come on to some of the things that went well and less well in a moment, but I'd love to move on to the sort of B Corp side of what you're doing, and perhaps hand over to Ali to dig into that.
Well, thanks, Ned. Yeah, I'll go straight in with, I guess, our central theme in the conversations we've been having as part of the Impact Files, and that theme is around the balance of commitments, people and planet, sustainability, we could say as our umbrella term, with hitting the commercial targets. And in relation to B Corp, I know you've recently recertified, Tyler Grange has recently recertified the B Corp certification. How has being a B Corp, delivering to B Corp standards, how has that impacted on your bottom line?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's all been positive. There is a cost to it. It's a challenging process, but I guess for us, it was also reassuringly difficult to get B Corp certification, and indeed, it's getting harder still. And for us, I guess for us, it was the test of when I discovered B Corp, and I probably discovered it, in all honesty, drinking an innocent smoothie or something, and thinking, I'm going to look at this logo and explore it a bit more. And once I did, I thought, this is great, because I want Tyler Grange to be held to account and actually judged for its performance. I knew there were like ISO standards. That felt a little bit corporate for Tyler Grange at the time. It didn't feel quite right. So actually I thought, let's look at B Corp. I started to discover a very encouraging network of people that were already B Corps, which then sold it to me, because as soon as I said, I think we're considering to become a B Corp, these people at the network just found us. And it was like this metaphorical hug of like, we're going to take you through it with us. It's great. You'll meet other people. You'll be supported. You'll learn how to improve. And that was it, really. We were like, this is a great way to see, firstly, if we're as good as we think we are, and where we're not, this gives us a framework to see how we can improve over time.
That's great. And did you have to sell the B Corp message, as it were, and indeed require something different of your own suppliers in your supply chain? Did you have to switch some suppliers? What sort of impact did it have there?
Yeah, that was really interesting one, because like all businesses, when you're sort of 8 to 10 years in, most of your suppliers are kind of accidental. We use someone because they were there at the time we needed them, or somebody said, have you tried X, Y? And we suddenly realized we'd never really looked at our supply chain. And it was a wake-up call, actually. We were using Amazon next day delivery. Once we looked at the impact of that, that was stopped pretty much immediately. other suppliers. We use a coffee roaster in our local coffee shop near our Manchester office. As a small ethical business, we had to give them the confidence and reassurance that we suddenly weren't going to walk away from them because they weren't a B Corp. Our responsibility is to help them get better and to help them realize that, we might be able to write their environmental policy for them because we've got the capacity to do it. Whereas they're so focused as a small team about just roasting coffee and sourcing the bean sustainably. If they got to fill in a supplier questionnaire, it's going to totally overwhelm them. So we've had to help them, but we've transformed. I mean, our supply chain is over 50 other B Corps now. So our hand soap comes from a refugee-led community group in the Orkney Isles, and gets delivered to our offices with a story of how's the soap made, what botanicals do they use, how do they use the manufacture and processing of that soap to train people to then move beyond that charity and get jobs in the UK. I mean, it's every supplier has a story again, which is it makes people think. And we got too used to convenience, whereas now it's think ahead, plan, work with people that have got shared values. And we save money. I mean, one of the biggest lessons I had was moving away from a high street mobile phone provider for our team to Honest Mobile, another brilliant B Corp. And we saved over £35,000 overnight in switching contracts to a more responsible service provider. So that was a great example.
So I've just moved to Honest Mobile this week.
Oh, brilliant!
Actually, so it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. Yeah.
And it is. You have to convince. I'll go and speak to other boards, other business owners and founders, who will be like, "It's just going to cost me money, John, isn't it? If I'm a responsible business." And I'm like, "Well, yes, it might in some areas, but other areas you may well save." And also, it's not about what you save in the first 6 months. This is what's the impact over 5 years, 10 years.
Game, yeah, and I think that's such an important message for people to hear, and I understand. And again, this is the sort of the topic we're drilling into as part of the podcast. I understand that the fears, particularly if you've got very, very tight margins, the fear that you are going to have that short-term impact on your bottom line. But just as you say, you have to work out what you're there for, what matters most, and
and I think also create a relationship with your suppliers, know who they are and what motivates them. And it's great because you'll understand why they started their business.
Yeah.
Also, when things get difficult, it's we'll say to the team, it's if you build that relationship, it's much easier to say to them something isn't right, or actually that was great. Feedback is also really important both ways. So we encourage our suppliers to tell us in what ways they like working with us and what frustrates them. Inevitably, as we've got bigger, there have been a few more processes in place, and a supplier over the last 10 years might now think, they're not quite as quick at paying us. And we'll have to say, well, actually, we've had to put a few things in place because, we might have had 15 credit cards scattered across the business. You just pay everything instantly, whereas now we've actually got an accounts team.
And I wanted to dig into that a little bit more, if I might, John. So you're running a consultancy business. We're in a cost of living crisis. Budgets are lower than you'd like. I imagine that commercially things are as tough out there for you as they are for everybody else. You need to make profit to cover all the cost and everything else we know about. But you also have this desire to operate your business in a sustainable way. So who does what you clearly are very well plugged into what's going on in the business, but how does the team work? What are the structures and the people and processes you've implemented to manage the sort of balance between near-term economic results and longer-term sustainability?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ned. We've had to, like we say, a flat structure can be a chaotic and intimidating structure. So there is now structure within that business, and what we did was we looked at people's true skills again and directed them either towards technical or operations in terms of leadership, as well as sort of sales. So there was three core things there. It's like some people are naturally great at speaking to people, generating work, communicating with clients, and that become the natural people that were pushed towards our sales team. So before I was at MD, I was very much sales director as one of the founders. Previous MD, Simon Ursel, helped us create the business. He was great because he was a non-consultant, whereas most businesses are born out of experts that try and run a business and balance their day-to-day project work. Simon could just ensure we started our business and take care of finance, operations, and sales. And then the next step of Simon was an incredible mentor and coach to me and others. And he was creating the next layer of people that could lead Tyler Grange as it grew, which then meant we got people that were naturally salespeople like me, who led a sales team. We'd got some people who loved systems and operations, like once a project gets instructed in Tyler Grange, what happens? How does it get?
Yeah.
How does And that was really important. And then technically we knew we'd got people that really, they didn't like any of that stuff. They like people, but actually what they really love is standing in the field, doing the survey work, wanting to improve and share those techniques for survey work and industry progression. And that's what we did really. We started to build the structure of those key themes, and we built up team leads under that. So each of our disciplines would have a lead, and then there'd be a central administration team. And we actually call the administration team the hub, because we say the hub is, like in most businesses, that's actually the most important part of the business. If you have no central administration team, you have no business. Again, it's like, remember who you are. Egos don't really land well at Tyler Grange. It's like you're as good as the next person that supports you to get your job done. So that's how the business is structured.
Sorry to interrupt you, John. I was just thinking, I really like the concept of the hub, or the use of that term, the hub, because it sounds to me like some of those roles might be what in certain organisations, the more old-fashioned ones, I might say, are referred to as back office. And I've always just thought back office, it instantly, it relegates people. I mean, it literally says, yeah, you're not at the front, you're back there somewhere. And I completely agree. I'm from an operations sort of background, or that's my career path. So yeah, the nuts and bolts, all that good stuff, as you say, in the hub. I think that's a great bit of recognition of how important they are.
And they can often be the face of the organization. So Angelina, who's worked with us for a long time, when she's having to call clients about age debts, and she has an amazing manner with them. It's like, I always say to the team, no, if you know where our suppliers and clients are going on holiday or where they've just come back from, and you can talk to them like a human, it's going to be a much easier conversation saying, oh, and by the way, you might be about 3 months late on paying us, and she can make a joke of it, but it really,
lovely.
It really does work.
Love it.
So that paints the picture of how you're running the business from a commercial point of view. How does decision making happen when it comes to doing it in the right way, doing all the interesting things you talked about social and environmental sustainability, and wanting to do it in the right way?
Yeah, I guess firstly, as we said, B Corp provides some framework for that as a business. And then also we've always operated on this sort of triple balance sheet where the whole team will be aware that we're balancing responsibility for people in the business and their well-being, as well as the well-being of their families, suppliers. We've got our financial performance, which again, I'll be really honest and open about in our strategy. And then we've got our environmental and social performance linked to B Corp. So all that is in a strategy. So we tend to work on an overall business strategy, but then a 5-year strategy that will be presented really transparently to everybody. Like, this is where we want to go and why. And then that will get, everybody's role will have an indication of how they can deliver their part of that strategy. So you make it really, it's something we're improving at the moment, actually. Communication, expectation, and consequence for not doing what's in that strategy, we've had to become clearer on because people weren't clear. And that was our fault, is that sometimes at Tyler Grange, we just let people get on with it. There is that freedom, but actually some people are like, yeah, but what does that look like? What actually do you want me to get done and by when? And that's one thing we've worked really hard on. And then we've got a great leadership team that's trained in a really unique way to deliver the confidence to take that strategy, evolve it. It's very high level. I'm also really clear to the team that a 5-year strategy, as soon as you've written it, is out of date. It's just, I've basically said I've kind of used a sailing analogy in our strategy. It's like we set direction and we know we'll be all over the place getting there, but that's roughly where we want to move towards. So if you can help us get there, and you can help work on these areas. And one of the things behind that that's really important is creating sort of little groups. So you might want to call them centers of excellence, or we have a group called Tectonic, which takes ideas through our business and innovates them and works and then presents them back to our technical director. Like, has this worked? If we need to make our reports stand out, so let's put much more video content into our reports so they're, our clients have got less time. Is there an audio file that the client can listen to the findings on the way home in the car? They're always thinking, and they're always creating things and feeding them back to our technical director. And then operationally the same. It'll be like, why do we need 5 clicks to get from an instructed fee proposal to getting it on our system? Can we do it in one? And everyone will be like,
Cool.
yeah, we can do it in one. It's like, it's this constant feedback loops of, this is what's happening at every level in our business to deliver against a strategy, but there's tons of flexibility in there of what that might look like.
And just reiterate for me again the 3 prongs of your triple balance sheet.
Yeah, so really it's environmental, it's people, and it's financial.
Right.
And for me, unless all 3 are thriving, your business probably isn't. So, I have colleagues and people in competing companies that have got incredible turnover and profit margins, but they have a huge turnover of staff. People don't stay because they don't feel valued. And profit is important to talk about. I would be comfortable with it, actually. But B Corp encouraged me to say, look, it's really important, actually, as a responsible business, to say you can make a profit. I mean, you don't. It feels like an unspoken truth, but people are worried about saying we're successful. We've done well. But it's really important to demonstrate that you can if you plan and spend wisely and run your business responsibly. And likewise, when times are difficult, we've had a challenging first quarter because of what's happening in the world. Client confidence has slowed, and we're seeing piecemeal instruction. And I share that with the team at our team day this week in a safe way. I'll be like, we've got a great pipeline, we've got a great opportunity pipeline, but I need all of your help to speak to clients and help us get instructed, because we need it. And I think that transparency is so important, and it's a great market indicator of what's happening out there. But because our team have built up relationship with clients, they can phone them up and say, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a bit of, is there an issue with confidence in spending, or is the war in the Middle East having a knock-on effect on your investors, which is why we're not seeing the same amount of work? And I think those open conversations about money and performance are are really important. And so much so, that's why we've gone full transparency on our own pay. Everybody in our business knows what the person next to them earns. And that, again, was trying to break down this barrier of like, let's be super British and not talk about it. Let's just assume that we're fine with the person next to us. Really, why you know that something's eating away inside of you, thinking, I'm sure.
Yeah. How interesting. Ali, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, following up on a couple of the examples you gave us already, John, you were talking about transparency is a really interesting theme, and clearly transparency is serving you well in several areas. But then when you went for transparency in sharing your board meetings, everyone just fell asleep or switched off or thought, hang on a minute, why do I need to listen to this? Whatever happened? So I wonder, can you give us any other examples of your learning points on the way and successes as well as things which haven't worked so well?
Yeah, and most of it can be linked back to change and communication, actually. So yes, we are a business that likes to change things all the time. It's experimenting, live experimenting. Like our business is a beta version almost. It's like it's always improving. But getting the comms around that wrong can be fundamental. So I guess one of the things we did get wrong in a big way, I think, and we're still addressing, is like, look, we were like enthusiastic puppies as founders. It was like information all the time, everywhere, and like as much as that energy shows passion, eventually to our team, it's like it's quite fatiguing to have that wall of information from lots of founders all at the same time. Didn't feel very stable.
Yeah, right.
And we'd be sending emails, we'd have messages on Teams, we'd be calling people, we'd be meetings. It's like there was actually no communication strategy. It was scattergun, wild communications, and it was stressing people out. I think, we probably left people in the business because our comms wasn't good. So that was a real wake up for me. It's like, let's actually work with a comms expert and have a more consistent and have a choice of comms where the team can select how they want to receive information. So we now have an internal newsletter called the Bulletin, which is all the softer stuff in our business. We have technical stuff comes through something called Field Notes, which comes out at a different frequency. And so there's choice for the way that the team can communicate with each other and also get information from us. But that was a big thing. We've turned from something that wasn't working at all to something that now does work better.
I think that's a great example. And I wonder, is there anything more you'd like to say about your 4-day week policy, which is bold, right? And again, I'm sure you've had peers in other businesses saying, whoa, hasn't your productivity suffered? Haven't you had a real hit from that? How would you say, does the 4-day week fall into the success bucket? I think I know the answer to that, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, it definitely does, actually. But the one reason it does, again, is because in that case, we did prepare for it. Somebody said to me, for this to work, you need to take everybody through the journey, whether your clients, your suppliers, and your team. If you don't, it won't succeed. And so we went into it through a trial. We saw this UK trial for 4-day week. We'd already been talking about it anyway. We knew as a business that something was happening. We could see burnout creeping up in the business. Mums were coming back to work and being absolutely super efficient on 3 or 4 days. I mean, like looking after families, raising children, but then somehow smashing through so much more work than all of the rest of us. And then the market started to lift, and we couldn't afford to give people a pay rise, if I'm honest. So there was a car journey, and we were saying to the our FD, James, is like, what can we do? We can't afford to match these salaries for our big competitors. And then we were like, well, why don't we just do the 4-day week trial and see, that gives people their time back. So they're getting paid to work 4 days. But, so they're getting paid for 5 days, but just working 4 days. And we trialed it, and we set some expectations. We like, if we do this, you need to be visible. So you need to be in the offices from time to time, supporting your peers. You need to contribute to your community. So we want you to do some volunteering and training on some Fridays. And also we want you to commit to the B Corp values and our values as a business. So we put all that in place, presented it to the team, and it was launched. And it's worked ever since. I mean, it showed us what we knew, is that on Fridays for us and in consultancy after COVID, they were much quieter. People were pretending to be busy on Fridays and they weren't. So we're pretty much still around 30% more productive as a business on 4 days than we were on 5. And we saw a pretty mammoth, I think it was a 68% reduction in absenteeism through sick leave.
Those are phenomenal stats, aren't they? Both of them really telling.
Yeah, and it showed us that, a happy, healthy business can be a profitable business. And, we've done we've worked a 5-day week for 100 years or so in the UK. It's kind of a learnt behavior that it's a 5-day working week.
Yeah.
Actually, with technology now, you can work really smart. And, the big thing I'd say to people is not compressed working. So don't try and fit 5 days work into 4. It's like, how can you make your products and your outputs and your systems better that people can work more efficiently in 4 and still build the same amount to your clients?
So when you're doing a 4-day week, are each of those 4 days the normal length of day, from 9 till 6 or whatever?
Yeah, we work 8:30 to 5:30 Monday to Thursday, and there's a few exceptions. We were involved in expert witness work and planning appeals, and sometimes they are out of hours or Fridays.
Yeah.
But the general rule, and it's I would say it's the best free publicity we've ever had. We've for no cost, we've had 9 million views of one of the BBC short video reels they did on us, and it just went global. And
you say your productivity has gone up 30%.
Yeah.
How do you measure productivity?
Yeah, we measure it. It's a pretty simple thing. So you measure output. So the task completed in Tyler Grange linked to the time it takes is a fairly standard calculation. It used to be done on hours for a lot of people. Productivity be done on hours. We moved away from timesheets, again, because we saw that timesheets was something that people hated doing. And actually they were often fabricated. People will either put too much time down or not enough time. We turned it into tasks. So we've got a general budget which sets out per person's role what sort of tasks they will be getting through per week, per month. And we look at whether those tasks are met. And we start to do that as a 5-day week business, so we could then monitor that as a 4-day week business. Other stats, we knew stats and data would be so important to report the success or not of the 4-day week. So tracking productivity and happiness we created our own app. So Simon, the former MD, his son was doing science and programming at university, and he helped us create an app along with a guy called Kevin Beck, who is a commercial airline pilot, and they use fatigue testing to ensure pilots are safe to fly. We brought that technology together to create a Tyler Grange app, which every day in the morning people log in. It takes 30 seconds to ask questions about mood, well-being. There's a quick reaction test on it, and that's a live dashboard where we can see the happiness and tiredness levels of every office. And we can look at seasonal trends. We can look at spikes where we think actually there's a problem in that region. But it's given us the data to be able to back up that working in a different way can work for a business.
Fantastic. I'd like to move on, if I may, to looking at media and communications and marketing, and love to get your take on the role of these things in continuing to drive and increase the impact that you're making in the business. What is your view of sort of how you should be using that and how you can use it in the future?
Yeah, you've got a real responsibility with it. I mean, from our branding and our marketing and our external voice came from a place of me saying to our external marketing consultants, I want us to look like no other consultancy business out there. I was like, I want you to be able to see our personality and who we are much more than what we do, because everybody else is telling us what they do and how great they are at it. It's like, and it probably took me back to where I'm from. Again, it was like, yeah, we might not be the best, but you're going to know about us because we've got a story to tell. And I wanted it to be playful. We've worked with a play lab down in Exeter that helped us embrace play a bit more as a business. I wanted that to come through the branding. But there is a responsibility in it that you've also got to have integrity, and it's got to be truthful. You've got to live it. A lot of people aren't living their external image, and that's dangerous. It's and could lead for us to things like greenwashing or social washing, where you're setting out to appear as something that you're not. And so I've always wanted it to be genuine. And I think we did that really well. We got lots of attention and we picked up a lot of work for being different. What we've had to build on now a little bit is like, we also do need to tell people that we can actually do project work successfully.
Yeah.
We're building on that. It's like, yeah, we've got to give people that reassurance that also we're good at what we do. But I think where we're going at the moment with it is we'll have different ways of expressing ourselves. We're going to have more people-based comms, we're going to have more project-based comms, and then we'll have more wider social and thought pieces on this is what's happening in the world and this is how we can respond to it as a business. So we're going to have more themes to our communications. And I guess what we faced at the moment is, what we don't want to do is stop communication. Some competitors and people in the sustainability world are so concerned about greenwashing that they've shifted into green hushing, so they're not saying anything.
Yes.
The fear of getting it wrong, which don't want to happen.
Interesting, isn't it?
Or people are using AI in the wrong way, and we're now seeing huge amounts of AI generated marketing that doesn't have the right tone of voice and won't land. So whilst it might be putting out lots of content, if it doesn't land, it has no purpose.
Point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Ali, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess as we sort of start to wrap up, I'm interested in hearing anything you can tell us about what's the next big thing for Tyler Grange, or if not a big thing, what are the developments coming up in the next 12 months which you're interested in and think will really engage your whole team?
Yeah, two things. One thing that's already happened. So we're now part of a European collective of organizations. We've recently obtained some impact funding. So we're now part of a collective of 8 other environmental experts called Millium, which is really exciting for us. We're a founding member of that. And that is all about creating this collective group that care about the world. We're a consultancy and a collection of consultancies, but we want to use our collective power to kind of share notes and have a bigger voice across a larger geographical area. So that's really exciting because lots of those companies are based in Scandinavia and Sweden, and they're doing some great work with the sort of some real intrinsic sort of community and landscape and biodiversity work in the northern reaches of Sweden, working with deer herders and looking at the balance between man and nature. So that's really exciting for us, as well as a challenge, because we're now a collective of even more people that need to communicate. And then the other thing for me, which I'm really passionate about, is that we're looking at how we can put nature on the board in Tyler Grange, and nature becomes a decision maker in our boardrooms. Like how we ask nature, and it's taken the principles that Simeon Rose put into the business, faith in nature. And there are now, you'll have heard of them, Lawyers for Nature and the Earth Law Centre, that can help us and guide us to bring that into Tyler Grange. And that's, you know, I'm excited by it because it's a challenge. It's like, on the one hand, now I'm going to have to speak and convince investors that it's a real thing, a tangible thing that will make us better as a business. And then I've got a team that are passionate about nature, and they'll be holding me to account and be like, well, really, if nature says no to that, are you going to say no? It's both daunting and exciting, but I think there are a handful of businesses doing it in the UK. I know the Better Business Network, that we're also members of. They sit with nature on their board. And I think it may go beyond that. It might be now that people aren't just asking nature, they're asking like future generations, like what would our future generations say for business decisions. So that might well say to us, don't get any larger as a business, or stop doing this component of your business. So I think it will be tough. But yeah, we've always liked to challenge Tyler Grange.
I think that's so interesting. Two really great, great new areas that you're stepping into there. And as you say, the nature on the board is, it's bold, and it holds you to account. But so you're just in the very early days of that, or the first sort of steps of setting it up. Is that right?
Yeah, we're starting to work and get some. Again, we'll get help from experts. So there's some great contacts. Somebody called Janine Barron, who's great at leading these sort of nature on the board sessions and getting our leadership team to understand what that means in practice. And obviously, being out in nature to design a framework for Tyler Grange will be part of that. So, and it might be something we never do in full. I mean, I'll be interested. The learning of it for me is like, how will it work? How will be the impact on it? How do we present it externally? Will it become the norm? In a decade from now, everybody could maybe doing this. But also, I think as part of it for me, the real responsibility is still to lobby and encourage some of our bigger competitors and organizations or supply chain that we work with to do the same, because it needs a groundswell of people to do this. We don't want to just be celebrated for being the firm that does it. We want others to follow, if I'm truthful, because we need a mass migration towards this stuff.
So important. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Back to you, Ned.
I can see, from a kind of cultural point of view and the sector that you operate in, having nature on the board makes a lot of sense, but logistically and organizationally quite hard to achieve. So it would be fascinating to return in a year and have another chat with you then and see how far you've managed to go. And as you say, how much the degree you've managed to influence your supply chain and your wider network.
Yeah, definitely. I think at the heart of it for me actually is probably the most important thing is the message that we're human. That's the one thing that I'm telling our team at the moment. We've got a range of values. One of the most important for me at the moment is belonging, this sense of togetherness as humans with nature. We've got a huge numbers of the team that are concerned that their livelihoods are going to disappear to machine learning and AI. At the moment, that's almost my priority. On the way to nature in the board, my first priority is to say, look, we're going to be the best at being human that we can be as a business. Yes, we'll innovate and use automation for stuff, but yeah, we want to be humans that you enjoy working with ultimately.
best at being human. I think that's fantastic as a response, as an intelligent response to AI and recognizing what AI can do. But I really like that. Yeah.
And I think a nice segue into our sort of ending questions, Jon, around where the first one of which is where do you hope the business or your sector will be in 10 years' time?
Yeah, I really hope it will be more collaborative and more regenerative. That's my true hope, is that, I don't like the word competition. I think we have got to start working collaboratively, even amongst our own often small industries. I don't see the point of us all putting the time, energy, and money into solving the same problems. So yeah, collaborative work. I'm hoping there'll be some great collaborative networks of people's minds being brought together and the resources brought together. I think that's going to be so important. So I'm hoping that is really prevalent 10 years from now, and that regenerative practice that we're seeing in everything from agriculture to manufacturing, I think also needs to be in sustainable environmental consultancies. It's like, our business needs to be responsible and self-nourishing. So, we'll probably end up building in carbon assessments of our own processes. So our client might not ask for it, but when they get their report a decade from now, I'm hoping they'll also get a carbon report that says, well, from the point of instruction to the point of finishing your project, this is the impact, and this is what we did about it as a business. So you can walk away as a client knowing that we've had maybe a positive end outcome from a carbon perspective. So that's my dream.
Gosh, that's quite a vision, quite a lot of work to do to get there, but a fantastic vision. One piece of advice for other businesses pursuing sustainability and financial objectives.
Yeah, I would say actually don't forget to look up, is what I always say. Is like step outside of your own business as frequently as you can. And it's like feedback. It's so easy to get stuck in your own business, in your own world, and to not see actually what's happening from other people's perspectives. So it's really healthy to, step out, look up, and invite feedback. I'd say that's one of the best things anybody can do to actually have a business that thrives.
Fantastic. Jon, that's so interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. Finally, how can people find out more about you and the business?
Yeah, we have a website, so tylergrange.co.uk. You will find us. We're also on LinkedIn. It's quite a unique name, so it's fairly easy to find. We are also on social media. We're on Instagram at Tyler Grange _ I think. But yeah, you either tend to find Tyler Grange, the environmental consultancy, or Tyler Grange, an American basketball player who we found out by accident that we'd stole his name.
Fantastic. Jon, thank you so much. It's been absolutely brilliant chatting with you.
No, thanks, Ned. Thanks, Ali. I really appreciate the invite and your time. Really lovely speaking to you.
Thank you so much. It's been great. Thanks, Jon.
Thanks for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, and share it with your colleagues. For more about the podcast, about us, our marketing services, and our wider support for purpose-led organisations, please visit our website at theimpactfiles.co.uk.